In this session, we will take a look at the detailed integration between Avaya Contact Center and Proactive Outreach Manager. Firstly, we'll look at the components of the solution. So we see our UC stack, the Communication Manager, Session Manager, and AES server. Also, we have our AACC 6.4 server, along with AMS and call recording. We also have, over on the right, our Experience Portal stack, which consists of the Experience Portal Manager, EPM, Proactive Outreach Manager, POM, and the Media Processing Platform, MPP. So in terms of the operation, when an agent goes to log in, they send an initial login request, which includes the zone, which is usually a geographic zone that the agent is working from, and the agent's phone extension. This login request is sent to AACC, and on board is a POM proxy service, which will relay the message to Proactive Outreach Manager. Proactive Outreach Manager, upon successful login, will initiate a speech path from the media processing platform via the session manager to the agent's station on that communication manager. And the agent's extension is what's used as the endpoint for that speech path. Once the speech path is set up, POM will select contacts from the campaigns to dial, and once it reaches a live customer, it will then proceed to conference in the speech path to the customer call. In that way, the agent is getting the live speech path from the customer. All the telephony requests like hold, transfer, conference, release, etc. are proxied from AACC 6.4 to POM for operation on the MPP. The telephony requests are not handled locally on the CM. When it comes to releasing the call, the release request is sent again from the POM proxy to POM Agent Manager, and the media processing platform will then drop that customer call, but keep the speech path open. So for the next call that that POM launches, the speech path is already in place, and it will conference this new customer through to the same speech path. The Avaya call recording looks at the events from the Proactive Outreach Manager, along with the TSAPI signaling from AES, in order to segment the calls. So it's not recording a continuous speech path by the agent, but instead capturing call by call the calls placed by media processing platform. The media itself is, of course, recorded from the gateway. Now we'll take a look in greater depth at the AACC 6.4 components and how it interacts with Proactive Outreach Manager. If we look at the Nailup in more detail, the initial login request from the agent will contain the zone, for example in this case called default, the extension, which is the agent's phone extension, and the initial POM skill set to which the agent is assigned, in this case PO sales. That login request is sent to the POM proxy service on the AACC multimedia server. The POM proxy service will then use the Agent Manager SDK to execute an AGT logon request. This logon request will contain the same parameters: the zone, the extension, and the initial skill set. Once the Agent Manager ascertains that this is a valid agent from invoking CCMA Web Services to validate the agent credentials, it will then send an AGT logon response back to the proxy. That logon response will indicate success or failure of the logon attempt. If the logon was successful, then POM will initiate the Nailup call to the agent's extension, and that call is routed through the session manager to the endpoint 2001 on the CM. The number dialed is the agent's extension, and the sender address is the P-asserted identity that's defined in Experience Portal. Because the system knows the originator of the call, i.e. the P-asserted identity, we can identify that, and SGM will receive a Tier 87 message from AES showing this call and knowing the sender of the call. Because we get the alerted call on agent desktop being from that P-asserted identity address, we know that this is a Nailup call initiated by POM. So therefore, we automatically answer that call. The agent is now considered busy by CCMS ASM on this essentially a DN call. So no AACC skill set calls will be routed to this agent while they're in this nailed up state. If we look at some of the scenarios that might go wrong around this process, why would a logon attempt fail? Well, we need to make sure that all the services are running on both AACC and POM. The key services that we need to look out for are the POM proxy, all of the CCT services, ASM, OAM, CMF and POM Agent Manager, and the Active MQ service as well. If the AACC services show as disabled, you should check your license. We need to make sure that the POM host information is correctly configured in CCMM admin. So AACC needs to know the address of the POM server, and that's the host information that's defined in admin. We also need to make sure that POM is aware of the location of the AACC server. So in POM home configurations, AACC configurations, we have the AACC hostname. So we need to make sure that the IP address is correct and can be resolved, that within that configuration screen the username and password defined have a CCMA web service role. We need to make sure that the multicast address matches the CCMS multicast send address. We need to make sure that the AACC hostname matches the CCMS site name. And we need to make sure that RSM compression is disabled on the CCMS server. In order for an agent to log on to POM, they must be assigned the POM outbound contact type. And remember, that consumes a license, so make sure that the correct AACC and POM features are properly licensed. Also, look out for any firewalls that might be preventing the POM proxy from communicating with the POM server. So the POM proxy, remember, resides on the AACC multimedia server, and that must communicate with the POM server. So the port number is defined in POM home, configuration, global configuration, and the setting there is agent manager base port. Make sure that that matches the port number for the POM server that's configured in CCMA, in multimedia, general administration, and server settings. The next steps when troubleshooting any logon failure is deassign the POM outbound contact type from the agent's profile and reattempt to log in. That'll just make sure that your core AACC logon is operational. Assign a multimedia contact type like email or web chat to the agent just to make sure that the core multimedia login is operational. Make sure that the POM server entry in the multimedia admin is correct and that that can be resolved. So just make sure that it can ping either by hostname or IP, depending on what's defined at the address of the POM server. Disable any firewalls and check for domain policies that affect the firewall settings on both the AACC and the POM server. Just do this as a troubleshooting step. Check the agent has not blended to inbound. So launch the AACC standard blended agent display just to confirm that the agent is not suddenly blended to inbound, and that could be why the outbound logon doesn't happen under the hood. You should of course refer to the latest AACC release notes for any known issues or workarounds. There are a number of key logs that we need to retrieve to troubleshoot any logon failures. The POM API log, which is located on the AACC multimedia server, this tracks all the calls made by the POM proxy to POM, so it'll contain only the messages that would have the direct POM Agent Manager SDK requests, such as the AGT logon, and the responses back from POM, such as the AGT logon response. They're captured along with any parameters, timestamps, and error messages. Another log file to retrieve is the CCMM POM proxy services log. This would have more detailed debug messages with the notifications and responses to and from POM, but a lot more logic is tracked here, and it would be much more verbose than the POM API log. The agent desktop log, that should also be retrieved from the individual agent PC. The general CCMS logs like ASM, OAM, CMF and License Manager, they should also be retrieved. And from the POM server itself, it's a good idea to take the PIM Agent Manager log file. This would contain the detailed debug messaging between POM and the POM proxy, along with the logic that POM implements for the logon of an agent. So next we'll look at troubleshooting Nailup failures. So why would a Nailup attempt fail? Well, the first thing we need to do is verify that the MPP is running and ports are available and licensed to the zone that the agent has logged in on. So to do this, ensure there's sufficient call capacity in the home system configuration VoIP connections change SIP configuration setting. Check to make sure that there's not already a call on the agent phone set. So an agent's destination could be busy and hence the Nailup attempt will fail. Depends on whether third line is configured or in a AML environment if MADN is configured. Is there a POM nailer application correctly configured? So verify that that is properly configured as per your POM documentation. Check to see if the phone set is logged in. And in an AML environment, check the MSB state, the make set busy state. Verify that a DN call can be made to the agent station, and make sure that the station itself is not forwarded to voicemail or forwarded to any other destination. Ensure that the Nailup calling line ID is configured in admin. So this must match the p-assert identity value that we configure in Experience Portal. We need to verify that the agent is assigned to a POM skill set. So remember that an agent will only be nailed up if POM requires that agent. So there must be a campaign running, and it must have dialing records remaining that are assigned to the skill set of the agent. Make sure there's a contact list with dialing records to match the zone of the agent, and that the contact list is assigned to a running campaign. If the campaign does not have the minimum number of agents available, it won't run, so therefore the agents won't get nailed up. If the maximum agents are already nailed up and working that campaign, then more agents will not be acquired. So here your agent could log in, but perhaps not get nailed up because the maximum number of agents has already been achieved. we need to make sure that the agent phone number is reachable from MPP. So this will probably be the most common cause of failure. The Nailup call originates from the MPP server. It needs to be able to reach the agent's extension. Dialing the agent's extension from another phone is not a sufficient test here. We need to use System Manager to ensure that the SIP entities are created for MPP, for your switch, the CS1K or the CM, and for the session manager itself. Then we'll create the entity links for the session manager to POM, the session manager to CM or to the CS1K, and the session manager to AACC. Ensure that the routing policy and the dialing patterns are configured. So the dial patterns and the routing policy are needed for the agent extensions in order to allow the Nailup be established. It's also required for CDNs, for any internal extensions and any other numbers the agents might transfer or conference to. You should perform a call routing test from the System Manager. Again, this is not necessarily a definitive test. POM's MPP server should now be able to connect to Session Manager and send in calls. Just use the POM monitor to confirm the agent extension, the skill set, the agent state, the call state, the zone, the job state, and the Nailup state. So POM monitor is a very useful tool for troubleshooting any Nailup failures. Once again, when it comes to troubleshooting the Nailup failures, the logs to look at would be the POM API log, and make sure that the calls like AGT available for Nailup and AGT Nailup change are reported there. The POM proxy services log again will capture more verbose output than POM API and will include a lot of the logic surrounding the agent's requirements and the decision as to when to nail up an agent. The agent desktop log should also be retrieved, but also from the POM server we should be looking at the PIM agent manager log, the MPP session manager log, and this will contain the SIP trace information for the Nailup and the customer calls, and the PAM service.out log. That'll contain a lot of the dial failure events and the reasons. When you are taking the MPP session manager log, just make sure that there is a sufficient log level set to capture the SIP messages, the SIP trace messages. You can do that from Experience Portal, from Home, System Configuration, MPP Servers, Change MPP Server, and expand the categories and trace levels. By default, it won't capture enough logs, so you will need to increase the verbosity of the messages. Now we'll look at how we handle a call. So here we have the agent who is logged in on station 2001, and they have the Nailup voice path. Now our dialer, POM, has placed a call to a customer, and the customer has performed a live answer. So we've reached a live customer in this scenario. The conference is established on the MPP between the customer call leg and the agent Nailup leg. So now both the customer and agent can communicate. POM will send an AGT call notify for the POM contact to the POM proxy. The proxy will relay that message to the agent desktop. The POM contact details are displayed, so the script URL is loaded and any other AACC screen pops are also loaded. When it comes to reporting on that call, the POM proxy will relay the call notify to the POM reporting service on AACC Multimedia. The POM reporting service will translate those messages to EB messages like local call arrived, etc., and these are sent into EB in order to populate the AACC reporting. When it comes to releasing the call, our agent will send a release notification from Agent Desktop to the POM proxy service. That will translate the message to an AGT release line call made to the agent manager. When it comes to setting the disposition codes, the agent will request the disposition codes through the proxy. That will call AGT get completion codes. The AGT get completion codes response will be returned to the proxy and the completion code list sent up to the desktop. The selected completion code then will be sent to the proxy, and the proxy will call AGT finish item. So why would an agent be left idle? Well, we need to verify that a campaign is running with a sufficient number of dialing records remaining. The campaign strategy skill set must match the skill set of the agent. Use the POM monitor to confirm what skill set the agent is on and verify that with what's assigned to our agent. The contact list of the campaign should match the zone of the agent. So our contact lists are assigned to zones. Use the POM monitor to look at the active agents in that case. Make sure that the phone numbers being dialed are valid phone numbers. So if you're dialing in predictive or in progressive mode, an agent is left idle until a live contact is reached. That's normal. An agent does experience idle time until a live contact is reached, and then it's brought through to the agent. You need to make sure that your MPP is sufficiently licensed. So an MPP port is required for the outbound call. Ensure that the zone has an adequate allocation of outbound ports. So it will consume 3 ports per call, 1 for the agent Nailup, 1 for the outbound call, and 1 for the conference. Use the system monitor to view real-time call information and alarms. So in EP, look at the Home, Real-Time Monitoring, System Monitor. Ensure the trunk access codes are properly configured. So here we might see the dialer making a lot of call attempts that are all failing and leaving our agents idle. Make sure that the trunk access codes are correctly configured. It's a good idea to switch to preview dialing if you're troubleshooting idle agent scenarios. It gives you more visibility as to what's going on and allows you to verify that outbound calls are being made. The key log files to look at in this scenario is the MPP session manager.log, the PIM agent manager log, and the PAM service.out. And again, just make sure that you have sufficient levels of logging set to capture the SIP trace messages. Another scenario we might come across is where voicemails are being passed through to agents. So in a preview dialing mode, that's perfectly normal. All the calls handled by agents, including those that result in voicemail, do get passed through to the agent. If you're dialing in progressive or in predictive, verify that enhanced CCA is enabled on the campaign strategy. You should look to manipulate the timers which detect voicemails if you're getting a low level of voicemail detection. So look at the Home, System Configuration, MPP Servers, VoIP Settings. But just make sure that you're adhering to the regulatory requirements of the regions that you're dialing, especially if you're using this in a live environment. Another scenario might be where the agent scripts don't display on AAD. So the script URL is configured in the campaign strategy. Just make sure that that can be resolved on the AAD client PC. Agent scripts might not update values in the contact list. So a script could be showing and allowing the agent to update fields in the contact list. We may have a scenario where this doesn't work. You should test this and test that the script is functional by unchecking Suppress Browser Script Errors in the Multimedia Admin Agent Desktop Configuration settings. Make sure that the script writer resolves any script errors. So usually there'll be JavaScript or similar errors. You might want to switch to use the POM native scripting to verify that the contact list attributes can be displayed and edited on AAD. This is useful for isolating any problems with remote scripting servers. The inbuilt capability in the POM server is probably your most de facto scripting examples. When it comes to troubleshooting, reporting issues, we may have a scenario where contacts are not being reported. The POM proxy will send a notification of each call to the POM reporting service. The POM reporting service, that's our translation layer to convert what the POM proxy is telling us into EB messaging. EB events then are sent via CCMS Toolkit. So we want to ensure that the firewall policy is correctly applied to CCMS and CCMM. We want to make sure that the CCMS server is correctly populated in admin. Make sure it's not the managed host name. So the IP address, the managed IP address, or the physical host name are all sufficient. But managed host name is not. Ensure that the firewall doesn't block traffic between CCMS and CCMM servers. Verify that Toolkit is operational, so use CCMA to create agents and skill sets and validate that they're replicated to MM. Make sure that the desired stats are being collected, so take a look in CCMA at the configuration settings, the historical statistics. If you find that after call work time is not getting accumulated, ensure that the enter ACW using not ready without reason code is checked in global settings. The relevant log files to look at here is the POM reporting service log file on CCMM. All the reporting events that are sent to EB are captured there. And also look at the CCMS reporting log files for the corresponding messages. Now, it is normal for the initial Nailup call to be reported as a DN busy until the first contact is routed to POM. Now we will look at conferencing. In this scenario, we have two agents. Both of these agents are logged in, one on station 2001, the other on station 2002. Both have an Nailup voice path and both are on separate outbound calls with separate customers. Agent 2001 wants to conference Agent 2002 into their call. We can see on the media processing platform our agents have two separate Nailup calls and two separate customer calls, both with separate conferences. Firstly, Agent 2001 requests the conference types. So on Agent Desktop, they're clicking the Conference button. That causes the AGT Get Conference Types to be sent from POM Proxy on behalf of Agent 2001. The list of conference types is returned, AGT Get Conference Types Response, and the conference types are sent back to the Agent Desktop. Conference types are to conference to either another POM agent or to an external phone number. Agent 2001 selects Agent as the conference types. The request is made to provide a list of conference destinations. So AGT get conference desks for type is the call that we make to POM. We get back an AGT get conference desks for type response, and this gives us the list of POM agents who are currently logged in, nailed up and ready. That list of agents is given to our agent to make a selection. Our agent makes the selection and POM proxy will call AGT consult call for agent 2001 to party 2002. The customer call is put on hold. If it's configured, the customer call leg is conferenced into a music port on MPP. So the on-hold music is provided by MPP, not by the CM. The destination agent is alerted to the pending consult request. So they're already on a customer call. So what they get is an AGT consult pending. It's destined to 2002 and it shows them that the consult is from 2001. Our destination agent completes their call. Alternatively, they could cancel the pending consult. But if they do decide to complete their call, an AGT finish item is called by agent 2002. The pending consult to 2002 is automatically answered. 2001 is notified. They get an AGT consult notify. And a conference is created between 2001 and 2002. Remember, the customer is still on hold at this stage. The call is only between the two agents in this consult phase. The consulting agent, 2001, then completes the conference. So that's clicking on the conference button again on agent desktop. And that generates the AGT start conference message over to POM. The customer is then taken off hold and joined to the conference with both agents. We can see this on the MPP server. The consulted agent, the passive agent, is notified with the POM contact. They get the script and the screen pops. The originating agent, the owner, they control the conference. So they're not allowed to, only the originating agent is allowed to complete the conference, disposition, etc. The conference owner may end the conference, causing the passive agent to exit but remain on the call themselves with the customer. The conference owner may also transfer ownership of the conference to the passive agent. So if they wanted to leave the call themselves, typically they would transfer ownership to the passive agent and then leave the call. The conference owner may also end the call with the customer. If they do this, they cause the passive agent to exit the conference as well. And the call that you will see in the POM proxy is AGT end call. So for troubleshooting the conference transfer issues, the scenario whereby the agent list is not populated when the agent clicks on agent as the transfer contact type, POM will send us the list of agents who are currently logged in and in a ready state and currently have a Nailup. So if you're not seeing the list of agents being populated, make sure that available agents meet that criteria. If they're in a not ready state, they're not eligible as a conference or transfer destination. If you're using the phone destination option, you can see the list of phone numbers are pre-populated in an address book for our agent. Use the POM Home, Campaigns, agent address book settings to create the agent address book entries. Use the Associate Addresses feature of the campaign management to select the conference and transfer destination addresses that should be populated for our agent. How do I blind transfer an outbound call to a destination? Well, you can't. You must consult with the destination party first before completing the transfer. The conference transfer to a phone number might appear not to be working. Here again, remember the MPP must be able to route the call to the destination number or a CDN if the agent is transferring to a CDN. Refer to the troubleshooting Nailup calls for the debug procedure here. The log files to look at, as before, are the MPP Session Manager log, the PIM Agent Manager log, the PAM service.out, the POM API log, and the POM Proxy Services log. We'll now take a look at blending. So the POM blending service that resides on the AACC Multimedia service subscribes to skillset RSM data. We define thresholds in CCMA, and when these thresholds are exceeded, an agent is selected by the POM blending service to blend from outbound to inbound or vice versa. The POM blending service will notify the POM proxy as to which agent is to blend, and that will instruct POM to blend the agent to inbound. When the agent gets the blend notification that they're moving to inbound, they get to complete out their existing outbound call. Then the AGT blend to inbound is sent to POM, and the Nailup is dropped at the end of the outbound call. And because the Nailup is dropped, ASM will now see the agent as being idle and will route skill set calls or contacts to that agent. When the inbound traffic allows, the POM blending service will select the agent to blend back to outbound. The agent is notified through that blend notification from the proxy that they are moving back to outbound. First they complete their inbound call, and then POM will re-establish the Nailup. So the AGT blend to outbound call is made to POM. And POM will then create that Nailup call back to our agent's extension. The outbound calls are then made as normal and notified to the agent. So if we're troubleshooting blending issues, first thing we might see is agents not being blended. So verify that the POM blending service on AACC Multimedia is receiving an RSM feed. Check the multicast IP address that's set in CCMA. Check the configuration, blending configuration. Check that that multicast IP is correct. It should match the CCMS multicast send address. Make sure that the agent port number and the skillset port number are correct. Verify that by launching all programs, Avaya Contact Center, Manager Server, multicast address and port configuration. It's strongly recommended that you use the moving window ports. Make sure that the CCMS address in Multimedia Admin is correct and that that can be resolved. Make sure that none of the RSM ports are blocked by firewalls or any group policies. Disable RSM compression and ensure that enable blending is checked and that the polling interval is defined in CCMA. This determines how frequently the POM blending service will look at the RSM data. Make sure that the blending configuration is correctly defined. Blending templates must have the naming format blending _template _n, where n is a numeric value, 1, 2, 3, etc. When configuring the blending templates, set the blend to inbound and revert to outbound values. You can configure values for any number of thresholds, but only one threshold is used to determine blending. The threshold is selected from the Blending Configuration tab. Highlight the blending template name in the template list. Select the threshold to monitor from the drop-down list. Make sure that the selected threshold to monitor has proper values set for the blend to inbound and revert to outbound. Select the number of agents to blend to voice or POM per interval. Ensure the blending template is assigned to the inbound voice skill set you want to blend. So from CCMA configuration and skill sets, make sure that the relevant inbound skill sets have the blending _template _n threshold class assigned. Do not assign this to the POM skill sets, just to the inbound voice or multimedia skill sets that you want to blend. Make sure that the agent has the correct skill sets assigned. So to be eligible for blending, the agent must be assigned the inbound skill sets. Have a numeric assignment, not standby. Those skill sets have a blending template assigned to them and have real-time traffic levels that exceed the blend to inbound parameter. To be eligible for blending, the agent must be logged in and ready and currently nailed up to a POM campaign. If they don't meet that criteria, they won't be eligible to blend. You may see a scenario where an agent is assigned the inbound skill set, but is still not blending. So after each blend operation, there's a setting called the minimum time in outbound after transition in minutes. That's the time that the agents must spend in their new role before being eligible for the next blend operation. So even if there is blend criteria met, if the agents have all recently blended, i.e. inside the minimum time period, then they won't be eligible for a blend operation. That value is set in CCMA in the Blending Configuration tab. You should check the Standard Blended Agent display to see the next eligibility time for the agent. The Standard Blended Agent display is a very useful troubleshooting tool for looking at any blending issues. The next question we might be asked is, can I influence which agents should blend? So if you want an agent to stay on outbound permanently, don't assign any inbound skill sets to the agent. That way they'll just stay permanently outbound. There is an algorithm for deciding which agents blend first, and that's determined in CCMA configuration, blending configuration. All the outbound agents who are in a ready state with matching inbound skill sets are assessed. We then look at the total number of agents, and depending on the algorithm selected, we apply a criteria to decide which agent should blend first. So we could look at the least important outbound agent, and that's based on the agent priority within that skill set. We can look at the most important inbound agent. Again, it's based on the highest inbound priority. We can look at the agent rotation, which is based on the time since last blending. We can look at the most staffed outbound skill set, which is based on the number of agents assigned each skill set. We can look at the longest active time of an agent, and we can give priority to the idle agents. You can also influence which agents revert back to outbound first. So again, it's essentially the reverse of the above settings. It's the longest transitioned agent first. We can look at the most important outbound agent, again based on outbound skill set priority level. We can look at the longest active time, and again we can give priority to the idle agents. When it comes to troubleshooting the blending issues, again the logs to retrieve are the CCMM POM blending log, the POM API log, the POM proxy services log, the agent desktop log, and the CCMS RSM logs. The most useful tool for troubleshooting blending issues is the standard blended agent display. Now, it's normal that agents are temporarily set not ready as they transition from inbound to outbound. This prevents AACC from routing a contact in quick succession as the Nailup call is being made to the agent. Once that Nailup call is established, the agents automatically transition to ready. So you will see those not readies turn up in reporting. It is normal, and it's used to block the agent out so that the Nailup call will be established. Next, we will look at zoning. So zoning allows for geographically dispersed agents to have a media server located in their region. The idea of this is to avoid media traversing the network. So the agent's Nailup and the customer calls are both anchored from the local media server. This is also useful because each media server can have different call progress detection settings for detecting voicemails versus live customers. As we mentioned before, the agents, when they call their AGT Logon, they send in their zone, and that zone is chosen from a drop-down list on AAD. So here our first agent logs on to station 2001 from the Spanish zone, and agent 2002 logs on from the Irish zone. So here we see two MPPs, both associated with our POM server. When it comes to adding a new zone, we create the new zone in AEP, so that's in Home, System Configuration, Zones. Next step is to add the new MPP server. So again, here in System Configuration and MPP servers, we trust the cert of the new MPP server. We add a new VoIP connection in System Configuration, VoIP Connections. Set the agent manager and the campaign director for the zone. So do this from POM Home, Configurations, POM Zone Configuration. Set the host name of the POM server, which should manage the new zone. We need to allocate licenses to the new zone. So here from POM Home, Configurations, POM Zone Licenses. We need to add the SIP entity for the new MPP and the entity link to the session manager. So do this from System Manager, Home, Elements, Routing, SIP entities, and entity links. Note that when you're creating a campaign for the new zone, the contact list must be associated with the new zone. Then launch AAD. The agent should now be able to select the new zone and get Nailup if there's a running campaign for that zone. When it comes to troubleshooting zoning issues, we might see the zone list not appear in the agent login screen. Here, make sure that the communication between the AACC multimedia server and the POM server is not blocked. So look for any firewalls or system policies preventing communication between the two. If you fail to log into the zone, check that the zone is up. So look at the POM monitor and look at the zone failover settings. Ensure that the MPP for that zone is running, and ensure that the current agent manager managing that zone is running. So look at POM Home, Configurations, POM zone configuration. We might have a scenario where the login succeeds, but no Nailup is established. Agents cannot participate in more than one zone during a logon session. So for the agent to be nailed up, a campaign for the zone needs to be running. Ensure that the MPP is running, has a valid certificate, and has sufficient maximum simultaneous calls set. Make sure the licenses are allocated to the zone. So look at the POM zone licensing. Make sure the MPP for the zone is capable of routing a call to the agent's extension. Use the system manager to confirm that the configuration for the MPP SIP entity is correct, that its entity link to the session manager and the routing policy and dial pattern are properly configured. That includes any destinations the agent might have to transfer or conference to. Perform a call routing test from the system manager and ensure that the zone has an associated running agent manager and campaign director. So look at the POM home, configurations, POM zone configuration settings. You may have a scenario where an agents in a zone are being left idle. So a running campaign must have an associated contact list matching the zone. It's a mapping between the contact list and the zone. Check this in POM home, campaigns, and the campaign manager. Click on the relevant campaign. Check the highlighted contact list. The associated zone is shown there in parentheses. Make sure that the licenses are allocated to the zone. Again, look at the POM zone licensing. For log retrieval, look at the POM API log, the POM proxy services log, agent desktop log, the CCMS, SGM, CCT and CMF logs. On the POM server, look at the PIM agent manager log, the MPP session manager logs. So again, there may be more than one MPP in the environment, and the session manager log should be retrieved from each. And look at the pamservice.out log. For more information, look at the AACC customer documentation, in particular the POM integration guide. You should also look at the Proactive Outreach Manager and the AEP customer documentation. When it comes to retrieving the log files, make sure that you are aware of where the log file locations are. On the POM server, log on as SU and navigate to the above directory. And likewise on the MPP server, look for the logs in the MPP logs process session manager directory. On the AACC server, look to the D Avaya logs CCMM and D Avaya logs CCMS folders. WinSCP is a very useful tool to allow you to easily navigate the folder structure of a Linux server and retrieve log files. So that concludes our presentation on AACC and POM. Thank you for watching.